Alright guys, so this is going to be a very long one, right? I just want us to get started, right? So it's going to be a long ride because of what we want to do. So what we'll basically be doing is to create a chat system more like your chat GTP and the rest, right? So we'll be using Langchain. Langchain is what we'll eventually be using to get us up to speed with what we want to achieve. So while we wait for this to be done, let's just chillax, right? So that our environment will be created, and from there we're going to start up, right? Okay. All right. That has been done, right? So I'm going to activate that now. So source, we're going to say vim slash scripts slash activate. So once we do that, right, so this is going to run and it's going to create our vim environment. All right, so that's basically what we want. So the next thing I would quickly want to do is to list out all the dependencies that would be needing. Okay, so the dependencies are Langchain, right? So we need the core, we need Google Gemini. Yeah, that's what we'll be needing from here. So we'll need Python underscore dot env. So I think I'll need time zone. What else again do I think I would need? I think majorly that is what we would need, right? And of course, I would need my Flask, and we might use it. So let me just do PyMongo, and I'm using 3.13. So this is basically the six, right? Stuff that I would need, but just for record sake, right? So um let me just have community, right? So let me just have the community. All right. So now that I've listed this, so the next thing I would want to do is to say um pimp install, right? Pimp install dash arrow, then the require txt. Okay, so what this is going to do, it's going to install all this, right? Because we definitely would need it. Okay, so why that is happening, the next thing I would want is to have my .env. So in my .env, I am going to say Google underscore API underscore key, right? So this place I will be passing in my API key there, right? All right, so let's continue. So let me just save here. Then right here we're going to have our app.py, right? And let's create a folder which would be the templates. And inside the template, I'm just going to pass index right dot html. All right, so for here we're going to have that, and let me just call my script. Okay, sorry, style. Sorry, script. Okay, so let's have our script, and okay, so I'm going to say src, and that's going to be https cdn dot tailwindcss.com. All right, so this is going to help me have my um tailwind, right? So let me just do this and say hello. Okay, so now that I have this, right? So I think while we're having this installing, we can be designing the UI, right? So um let me just come down here. So I'm going to say from Flask, it should import Flask, right? Okay. So let me say app to be equals to Flask, right? And I'm going to say name. All right. So if so that we'll be having once we save, we can see our changes, right? So name is equals to name. So app dot run. So would have debug, and that's going to be true. Okay, so we save this, right? So once that is saved, we can see it run, right? Okay, so the next thing is for us to just chillax for all of this stuff to be installed, and once it is or once it does, we can dive in, right? All right, so now that we have all our dependencies installed, so we're going to quickly just start here, right? So I'm going to say at app dot route, right? And so that's going to be this. So we could say index, right? So let it return. So remember, I just want to say render template. So let's render that template, and I'm going to say index.html, right? So once we have that, okay, so that being said, right, so we have this now installed. So let me just run this now. So I'm going to say python app.py. Okay, so that should run. So I can now see what I'm doing, right? So I think I can just minimize it a bit so that we can have it displayed here. So let's see. Okay, let me close this. Yeah, so now we can see this hello displaying here. So which is not bad. I think I can close here because I would want all my space to be visible at this point here. All right, so now that this is done, right, we can actively begin. Yes, 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 yes. So one more thing which I usually do, so I'll just copy from um, Google Fonts, right? So what I needed is this Montserrat, right? So just there, I am going to say style, right? And so let me say body. So that will be like font family, and I would paste in that Montserrat. So the point is so that my font can change to be Montserrat. All right, so that's all I'll be needing, and I think everything is good at this end. So now let's start our styling. So what we would want is we would have our chart system to be here and the enter button, right? So once we punch on messages, we can see the messages display here. So for that, let me just remove these, and I'm going to say this should be main. So this is going, we're going to have it in two-fold, right? So let's say this part is going to be for the the input, right? So let me design that now. So I would say, no, let me have a div first, and inside this div I'm going to have two, so that will be input and maybe a button, input and a button. Okay, all right. So this button, let me just let it be submit. Okay, so let's design this first. So we're going to say class, and we're going to give it a width of about, let's say, 95% WV, right? So let it have border, and the border we'll be using is going to be slate of maybe um 400. Let it have a rounded of full, and let's have a py of 1 and maybe a px of 2, right? So if I save and we review, we should see it fill up this open here. Okay, so for this one, let me just say chat display here, right? So something like that, right? Okay, so now that we have this, we can now, so we can see what's happening here. So let's just refresh. So our display chart comes in here. So let me come here and say class, and I want my text to be XM. So let me see how that looks like, right? So just small change. Okay, that's not bad. All right. So we can see this guy, right? So I would want it to be at the center. So let's do class name. So I'm going to say flex justify to be center, and let's say width to be full. All right, so if I should refresh, right, so that stays at center, and I think I can increase this guy. Let me see. Okay, this looks good, right? All right, so let's focus on this now. So for year, I'm going to say H to be um 100 VH, right? So flex, and we're using flex code. So this is where we're going to spend majority of the time, right? Because we would have to fix this guy. So let me say this is going to be flex one, and let's see. Yeah, so we have this guy here. So rather than it being 100, let me just make it, let's say, 98 VH. So let's see. Let's try 99. Okay, so we have this, right. So I would want this summit to be here. So let's apply class. So I'm going to give it a flex of 1. So let's see. Okay, so we have that, right. All right, so let's see. Okay, so this is going to be flex and width, let the width be full. So if we save that, we see that there. All right, so I would want um let's say BG to be slate, and let it be like 500, and PX to be 2, PY to be 1, and then we have Let me have the rounded to be full. Okay, so let's see how that looks like. Oh, sorry. So I need this for the button. Okay, so that would be for the button. Yeah, and let's have the text to be white. So text to be white, and so let's do a font to be semi bold. So once we save this, we'll have, yeah, this. So this is touching edge to edge, right? So what I'm going to do is, yeah, this point here. So let's have it to be like, let's say 98 VW. Okay, so if we save that, we have this. Okay, now this looks not bad. So let's fix this part now. So that should be here. So I'm going to say border to be 0, um, outline to be none. Then let's say PL to be 2. All right, so that's good. Then I can say placeholder. So let the placeholder be, let's say start a chart. Yeah. Okay, so save that. If we run this, we see this, yeah. So start a chart here. All right, so that's good because we've done this. The next thing we'd want to do now is to display just few contents here. So let me come back to this point here, and in here, so I could just say chart right to be equals to this, and let me do this. So let's say user right. So let's say hello, how are you today? Okay, so that's the user message. Then let's say this is AI, right? So this is going to be I am I am doing well today. All thanks to God, right? So save that so that I can pass that message here. So let's say charts right to be equals to charts. Okay, so this is good, and let's call that here. So what I'm going to do is to remove this. Now that we're done with this guys, so let's quickly work on this, right? So I'm going to remove this, then come down here to create a div, right? And inside here, so we're going to create two divs to be precise, right? And let's say, right, so say if chart, right, then let something happen else, right? Then so this is going to be for else, and why this is going to end it. So it's important you always end right to avoid error, right? So let's say chart here. Let's say chart here, and let's say no chart messages yet. Okay, so we save this, and if I run this, so we see no chat messages yet. Okay, yeah. So no chat messages yet. Okay, so should that be the case? Should that be the case? Let's see. Okay, let's see. Oh, chats, not chats, right? So let's say S here. Save this. So we run this, yeah. So we see that, so chats here, And if there's no chat messages, right? So let me remove this first, right? So if there's no chat messages, we'll see this. But then I would want this guy to be at the center, right? So let's come here. So I'm going to say class. So let's do flex h to be full, w to be full, then justify the center, then items to be center. And of course, I'll just want to say flex code. So save this, and if I save that, oops. So when I say height full, he doesn't understand what that means, right? So that's because we didn't pass it down here. So what I'm going to do is just to copy that and save that. So if I save this now, whoops, we can see it here. Okay, so let's do 5, right? So let's see. Let's do 3. Save and let's see. All right, so this is good, right? So we have the chat messages here. Okay, so everything done here. Let me just copy that. Let me just copy up to this point and paste it here. So in this case now, this will be S, right? So if we save that, we'll see chat here. All right, so that's good. So what I'm going to do now is just to remove this 2 because we don't need that, right? So if I save, we'll see it up here. But remember that we don't want it to be from here, we want it to start from down. So I think what I can do is just to do the reverse, right? So save that. If we save, we see it here. So that's good. All right. So what I can now do is just to say maybe MB to be 2. Let's save that and let's say again. So all right, so I think it should be P. So if we save that, we get it. So that's super good. All right, so we have that. Now, what I quickly would want to do, I think I should use this as well rather than having it full, right? So let's have this, right? So save that and okay, so definitely it's food. 1, 2. So let me just remove this here and just do a px. No, so let me go back to the full, right? Then I'm just going to say px to be 4, right? So let's see. Yeah, so we have this here. Okay, so at this point here, we'll be doing 2 things, right? But before we begin with anything, so I can just remove this now and put my for loops, right? So let's say for, oops, okay. So it's say for I in chat. All right, so we have this. So now let's say for I in chat, right? So as usual, I prefer just having this, right? Because there's tendency that one might forget and that now becomes an error. So anytime you open, remember to close. So I would say for I in this, right? So let's do the design for it. Okay, so now let's begin. So I'm going to say div, right? And then inside this div, so let's do um so let's say chat. Yeah, so let me just say user chat. Should it be user chat? It doesn't matter, right? So let's just say user chat, right? So if I say user chat, then I am going to say let me say bg red, and let's say that would be 200, right? And let me see if this can run this, right? So we can see this guy run end to end. That's not what we want, right? So let me just remove that, and let's come here and do a p tag. And in this p tag, let's say chart, and this is precisely where I would want to have that background color. So let's say bg, and I'm going to say slate to be um let's try 200. So I'm going to say p to be 2, let's say rounded top, to be let's do lg, right? So yeah, I would remove this so that I would say flex, and I'm going to say flex, cool. So save that, run here. Hmm, it's still getting to the end, right? All right, so now we have this, right? So let's just allow this guy to be at this end here, right? Because this the let's say like the user chat, right? So what I'm going to do is to come here, and I'm going to say items to be end. So once I save that, okay, it's here. So let me change this to be one, and other. Okay, so let's say my to be one as well. So if I should save that, we have this, not bad, right? And because I would want time as well, so I'll just come down here and do the same p. So let's say this is user, right? Let's say user chat. Then I can come here and pass in time. So we'll pass in this time later on, right? So let's save this. If I should refresh, we see this. Now this message, the text is crazily too big. So let's do 10px, right? So save that, run here. Then y for this, I'm going to say this, and let's say fonts to be semi bold, right? So save that, and let's see. Okay, so we have this. I think I would want this guy to go up. So let me say empty one. Let's see. All right. So yeah. So this is okay, right? So this is okay. All right. Should I increase this guy a little, or it's good? I think it's good, right? Okay, so now that we have these right, this is basically what I would want. But then I would want the one for user. Remember that we'll be having user and AI, right? So let's have that so that we'll know this is for user and this is for AI, and so on and so forth, right? So let's quickly do that now. Okay, so that would now be let's okay, so let me remove this, right? So that's going to be, so I'm going to say, let me have this. So we'll say if I dot user, I could do, let me leave it like this first, right? So if I dot user, then would have our, I think I should first of all um end, right? So this should be else, right? So that's the point, right? So let's say else. Okay, so if we have this, else we have this. Now in the place of this chart, right? So I can just do I dot user, and in this place here, so I could just do I dot AI, right? So save that. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, so let me look at it and see. Oh, look at what I did here. So this should be n, right? So save this and folder. So we got this right. So that's good. Okay, so I would want user. So this should be AI chart, right? So one of them should be AI chart, which is this. And rather than end here, so this is going to be start. So we save this. If we run this, we have this. Okay. So this should be maybe thicker, right? So rather than we having 300, let me try 700 and let's see how that looks like. Okay, then if that is good, so let's say our text to be white. So if I save that, we have this. Is this good? For now, let's just say, oh, it's cool. Okay, so this is how simple it is, right? So we've been able to design the UI. So what we'll be doing now is just to populate our chat messages inside of it, right? So we type our message here, we hit on submit, we want to see it here. All right, so now it's time for us to apply some coding, right? Okay. All right, so the first thing I would want to do is to call our stuffs, right? So we're going to say from Langchain. So we're using the Langchain Gen AI. Let it import chat, right? So that will be, come on. Okay, so that would be this. Then something else we'll need again. Um, so from Langchain call. Yeah, so we need from Langchain call. Let's see, I think we would need message. Then let it import AI message, human message, and lastly let it import system message. All right, so the next thing I would need again is from .env. Let it import load.env, and I think the very last one I would need is going to for me to just say let it import pt, right? So let's just add that. All right, now that we have all of these, the next thing we would want to do is to precisely call a function, right? So that we can see what's happening, right? Okay, so let's just say at app dot route. So let's say um, chat call. So let us have the method of post. Okay, so we can now see let's say chat call. All right, so this is where it gets interesting and we can do everything we want to do. So first of all, you'd recognize that we'd have to type something here, right? And once we type, we hit on submit, we should be able to see that type message here, right? So for that, we'll be needing requests, and since we're creating more like an API, it would be wise for us to just call Jasonify, right? Okay, so now let's begin. So I'm just going to say global, and that would be this my chart, right? So that I would have access to that chart. So the next thing I would want to do is to call data, and data would be equals to request underscore get, no, sorry, request dot get underscore json, right? So would have that. So I can now say let me just say something like message now would be equals to, remember that we're expecting something from here, right? So that's going to be data, and I could just say chat, right? So that's it. Now, now that this stuff we're getting this, right? So there are certain things we need to define, right? So the first thing I would want to do is to say load underscore dot env, so that it can load my env file, which is precisely this, right? And I think I've shown you guys before. Okay, so that's going to load it up. So now it's for me to define my model. So for that, I am going to use this. Then I can pass in model to be equals to the particular model I want to use. So the model we'll be using is going to be Gemini on the dash 2.5 dash flash light, right? So that's that's the one would be using, right? Okay, so now once I've gotten this my message, I would want to push this message to the chat, right? So I can say chat dot append, and for that my append I'll be saying user, because this is going to be a user message, and that will be message. All right, so the next thing I would want to do is to now invoke this my message into the chat so that I can get a response. So let me say rest now would be equals to my model dot invoke, right? And inside here I'm going to pass my message. So once I do that, I can now append whatever the result is going to be into the AI message. So let's say AI, and that would now be res.content. Okay, so once I have that, I can now do, let's say, return. So return justify, and I'm going to pass two keys, which is going to be success, and success is going to be true, and data is going to be chat. All right, so that's what we want, right? So this is basically the endpoint for this, right? So now it's time for us to call it in, right? So let me just copy this so that I can come down here. So the first thing I would want to do is, in this my input, I am going to give it an ID, and I'm going to call it chat, right? So yeah, so let's do on click, and this is going to be chat. Let me do call, right? Okay, save that so that we can come here and do our script. Okay, so we'll say function chat call, right? All right, so now we can start literally. So the first thing first is for me to say chat to be equals to document dot get element by id, and I'm going to pass that chat, right? So once I have that, the next thing I would want to do is to call my chat, right? Fetch rather. So this would be the call, right? So remember that here is going to take precisely three arguments, right? The very first one is going to be the method, and the method for this would be post. The next is going to be headers, and for these headers we're going to pass content type, right, which is going to be application slash JSON. And lastly, it's going to take in the body, right? And that's going to be JSON.stringify. And inside here, we're going to pass, let's say, chat, and that's going to be chat.value, right? Now, this chart is coming from whatever we define here to be, right? So note that. All right, so now we have these, right? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to say the then. So that will be rest, and I can say return rest.json, and finally I can say EL. Okay, so let it just console log what EL is. Then I could do dot finally. So this dot finally should empty. Let's see. Yeah. So that would be chart dot value to be equals to empty. So it just empties it, right? So all right, so this is good, right? So for here, let me call. Okay, so I think it's good now. All right, so let's just allow it spin, and once it's done doing its thing, we can do our own thing. Yep. All right. So let's see. Um, who are you? So just a simple question. So we hit here. Blah. So I can see an issue here. So chat call is not defined. So let's look at this and let's see. So chat calls. That's what we used to save this. And once it's saved, we can try it out again. So let's refresh here and let's try it out again. So let's see who are you. So I hit here. So let's look. Value is an issue. So let's see.